Please note that this episode and the interviews within it were recorded remotely, so the audio quality might be something different than you're used to on our show. Hello, friends! We are so excited to be with you today in this third special of Africa in My Kitchen.
Yes, we are. Now, if you listen to our show regularly, you probably know that we air a new episode every 2 weeks. But this episode comes only a week after our last one, in honor of World Jaloff Day on August 22nd. Also, we are going to be taking a short break for a few weeks, but we will be back September 15. While we're away, don't forget to check out more pictures of the food we've covered so far on 234 Pantry's Instagram page. We also have even more pictures, recipe links, and more information about the dishes on our blog, tunukamedia.wordpress.com.
And on the Tunuka Media Instagram page, you will find many fun facts about all the countries we've covered so far. In these, you can learn about the country where the featured dish is from, and the best part of these are, hey, maybe now you can have some great tidbits to share around the water cooler or at your next dinner party. We'd also like to thank everyone for their great comments about the fun facts and how much you love them.
Right. Now let's get on with it. We've hinted that this episode is a special. This means that we're not going to talk about only one country. Instead, we will focus on the type of food that is similar across multiple countries. We've also hinted that we are doing this to commemorate World Jaloff Day. But in case you still don't know what we're going to talk about, today's special is going to be on the spicy, the luscious, and the controversial rice dish that has landed Jamie Oliver in hot water, and also a dish that Mark Zuckerberg knows to be very diplomatic about. Friends, today we are going to talk about jollof rice.
As in, how could we not? How could we make a podcast about African food and not devote an entire episode to jollof rice? Jollof rice is an iconic dish that is well known across the African continent and beyond, but it is mostly made in West Africa and by West Africans abroad. Every country has its own version and each cook puts some different spin on it, which means that there are a lot of arguments about the best way to make it and which country's version is the best.
First of all, we want to say this. We will not be judging which country's jollof is the best. That is, Yemi and I will not be. We will not be doing this for two reasons.
Yes, sir.
One, we are not here to be judges. Instead, we're going to tell you about the history of jollof rice, why it is so contentious, and the different ways West Africans make it. The second and more important reason we are not going to be judging which country's jollof is the best is because we already know it is Nigerians by default, so there's nothing to be judged. Case closed, moving on. Thank you.
Yeah, that's right. Seriously though, this is definitely a really fun episode. At least we had fun putting it together. And we will try to be objective. I said try, so don't ask me. So you guys, this is how this is gonna go. We'll tell you a little bit about the history of jollof and where it comes from. We'll talk about how different West African countries make it and the little personal touches people like to add. We'll then talk to you about all the different kinds of rice that we tried out, and we actually got a few people to taste test and tell us what they liked or didn't like about each one. We told you we will try to be unbiased, so yes, there we go.
Yes, I think we deserve like accolades for bringing more people in. But they say we were biased.
Pat on the back. Yeah, pat.
Now, if you're a jollof rice novice and you've never heard of it before, in its simplest form, jollof rice is rice that is cooked in a tomato stew. To be clear, it is not stir fry. You make the stew by blending a mix of tomatoes, peppers, sometimes onions, and then you fry that stew in some kind of vegetable or peanut oil and some spices. The rice is usually cooked from raw or when it's almost raw. The whole point of it is for the rice to steam in the stew until the rice is fully cooked. And by the time it's done, at that point, the rice should have absorbed pretty much all of the stew.
Yeah.
And then, the rice is cooked, plumped, everything is ready to go.
Oh
Depending on the color, depending on the color of your stew, Jollof rice can be like a really bright, vibrant orange color. In some cases, it's almost red. And if you do not do it too well, it might be a pale yellow.
Shy. That's unfortunate.
Yeah. Wah, wah. Sorry. Try again next time, and maybe next time you make it better.
Wow, this Jollof episode is really bringing out the worst in us, though.
I know.
We're kind of salty.
I know. They are so rude. Anyway, there's one special thing about jollof rice is that it cuts across tribe, circle, socioeconomic class even. Like, everybody knows jollof rice. Another interesting thing about jollof rice, I think makes it, I don't know if you would say it's unique, but I find it's very interesting, is that you can eat it on special occasions and at the same time, no occasion at all.
It's like jollof rice and puff puff are like cousins.
Mm-hmm.
Like the way they can be used in both, and we've spoken about puff puff in the other special, which listen to, but it's kind of the way like they kind of graduate from different episodes. Or is it buns? I think I'm thinking about, but yeah, one of those two. Anyway, sorry for cutting you off.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know whether it's puff puff. I think it's buns. Ijoma, which one was it? I think it's puff puff. We said no, it was buns.
It was puff puff that we said that came from the streets into the party.
Yes, in fact,
yeah.
And like jollof rice, right? It's something like if you want to eat it at home on a Monday night and take it to work on Tuesday. I mean, when you're thinking of these dishes, like if you want to eat something at home on a Monday night and then take it to work on Tuesday for lunch, what do you have?
Jollof rice.
Christmas, Easter, New Year. What do you have?
We're making dishes, and we're making many dishes. One of them must be jollof rice.
Must be. What is sold as a street food and then available at a high-end restaurant?
Jollof rice.
Are you having a party?
Well, there's a reason there's a kind of jollof rice called party jollof.
Where is the wedding? There's a wedding happening today?
Where is the jollof rice? I'll leave with my gifts.
I do know of people that have legit said that if there's no jollof rice at a party, they're taking their gift away. And in fact, like even with that, like even if like having a funeral celebration of life.
I said if there's funeral, there's jollof rice. If there's the food at that funeral, there will be jollof rice.
Child christening, baby dedication, reception, everything.
Oh, I was only going to stay for a few minutes and pop out because I'm in a rush.
Hello?
But I see there's jollof rice. Oh, there's even plantain. I think I can stay an extra hour. It's not the end of the world.
Exactly. Oh, there's puff puff. Woohoo.
To add to the jollof rice, it's. I think it's actually pretty crazy. Like even abroad, outside of West Africa, you go to, even in the UK, North America, you go to an West African person's house, a kind of celebration, and there's jollof rice.
Like I went to a wedding, and I must have told you this before, Ijoma, when we were talking about
Pondu.
Yeah, Pondu. When we were talking about Pondu, how we went to that wedding, and literally, the Nigerians are kind of rude, though. Like, nobody, everyone on my table, like, was a mix of Nigerians and other West African countries and people, and literally, they brought the Pondu round, and everybody was like looking at it, like, was this das? And then after. They were like, please, the one auntie was like, is there no rice? Is there no jollof? And they're like, oh, there's jollof. It's like, bring it now. Bring it.
We're really bad. Like, I even have like friends who are not West African, right? But they're African, but not West African. And one of my friends, she's from Tanzania, I think she complained. She was like, Nigerians will come to her house where she's from Tanzania and be like, oh, there's no jollof rice. And she's like, are you kidding me?
You know what? For our listeners from other countries, think of jollof rice like the same way you would think of, let's say, like Mickey D's. Like, yeah, please, Nigerians, don't at me. I'm going somewhere with this. Don't at me. Don't at me. But you know how when you've had something and you like it, and you know no matter which country or location you go to, whether you're in Asia, whether you're in South America, wherever you are, if you pick up a Big Mac, it's familiar. It's like home, like, there's something tied to it. So that's why a lot of us, you hear of people from North America that they travel to Asia or China.
Just about
and they go and grab a McDonald's. For us, it's kind of the same, where the taste is so consistent and familiar. No matter where you go, you just give me. I know no matter what you do, it's really hard to mess up jollof rice. So just
What?
give me that one.
No. First of all, I'm going to refute that comment right
Really?
here, but we can talk
I don't
about that
know.
later on the podcast.
We can talk about it, but I feel
We
like
can
jollof
talk
rice
about-
is almost like the consistent, like where I know, like if I go to an unfamiliar place and they have things that on the menu that are like kiniko, this and that, all I see is I look down the menu and I see jollof rice. I'm like, okay, I know this one.
What you said, you basically just compared us to those really arrogant foreigners that go to a different country and like, why don't they have my burger?
Ijoma, but you're the same person on this podcast that reminded me of that remembered someone that traveled and went to the UK and now said, give me
Give me Nigerian food.
Give me Nigerian food. Or these people that will travel, they're like, I cannot eat outside. I have to go home and eat my stew. See, you know what? Everybody has that person in their family. Why do you think people travel with their food ingredients in their suitcases? Did you not see the
I've
picture?
never done that.
Did you not see the
have.
picture? See, did you know there's this picture on social media, and this might date this episode, but whatever. But there's this picture on social media that's going around about this couple that went on a plane and brought a whole crab boil. Like, anyway, we're going off point, but I'll try to make the illustration of why jollof rice is so popular, it's so widespread. Because wherever we go, we just take it. Because you know, no matter what, if you go to a place and they're eating something weird, if you see jollof rice, you're like, at least this one is.
Okay.
Anyway, so jollof rice itself is actually believed to have come from what is present-day Senegal. It is actually named after the Jollof or Wolof Empire in that region that existed between the 14th and 16th century. Today, you can find the Jollof people in parts of Senegal, Gambia, and Mauritania. All of these countries are in West Africa, and if you haven't already, you can listen to our episode on Gambia where we talked about Ebe.
Ebe.
We're not sure how accurate this is, but the story behind it is that jollof rice was invented in the 1800s by a woman called Penda Mbaye. She was a cook for the French colonial officers in a city called Saint Louis in Senegal. One day, she ran out of barley to cook with and decided to substitute it with broken rice. Broken rice is rice bits that are fractured during the rice milling process. Penda had this handy, and so she made her dish. She probably added some vegetables and tomatoes, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Now we're going to presume that this spread among the Wolof people and to the neighboring countries. Some historians believe that from there, some Jula travelers from the neighboring Mali Empire may have carried this dish across the West African region. We're not sure. So this is just a lot of historical conjecture.
Mm-hmm.
What possibly happened is that from there, the different people that learned about jollof rice started adapting it to their own culture and adding their own flair to it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The interesting thing, though, is that in the Senegambian region where it comes from, by Senegambia, we're referring to like a mix of Senegal and Gambia. In that region, it's actually typically not called jollof.
Yeah.
In Senegal, it's called chepudiang. And in Gambia, it has called benachin. But then again, it's made differently in those areas. In those areas, their own jollof is on another level of ingredients. They add a lot of additional things to it. So there are actually two kinds of chepudiang. One is the red and one is white. The white version doesn't have any tomatoes in it, and it's called tiebuwek. I hope I'm saying this properly. But we're going to focus today on the red one, because that one is the one that's most familiar to jollof rice across West Africa.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So chepudiang means rice with fish. And so it's not surprising that traditional chepudiang is made with fish. But other parts of West Africa have introduced meat into their own version of jollof rice. And it's actually more common to find jollof rice with meat in most of West Africa than with fish, even though you can still see it with fish.
Thankfully.
I can see Yemi is like cringing because if you're not familiar with our podcast, Yemi does not eat fish. So I knew making this was going to be a bit of a challenge for us. Senegal and Gambia are kind of like far west in the continent, but as you start to progress eastwards, you start to see some regional changes. When the Senegalese and the Gambian versions of jollof rice, or chepudiang, or benachin as you want to call it, involve you making the stew and then cooking some largely cut vegetables in the stew. So they're usually like sweet potatoes, cassava, eggplant, in some cases whole okra, carrots, all chopped in large, really large pieces. You cook them in the stew until they're ready, and then you take them out. And you cook them in the stew, you cook them with the fish as well. You take all of that out. Then you put in the rice and cook the rice until the rice is done. And then you kind of serve everything on a huge dish with all the vegetables and the fish piled on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
In Mali, it's called zame. It's pretty similar to the Senegambian version of jollof rice. Now, as you start to move east to Sierra Leone, you start seeing some changes. I noticed particularly, even though we didn't make Sierra Leonean jollof, a lot of the videos I saw featured a very heavy onion stew. They actually called it an onion stew. So the major aspect of the stew is onions, and I saw a lot of onions. I haven't seen that many onions cut up since we did Dorowat.
Yeah.
I don't think it's quite as much as Dorowat, but it's pretty similar. They still have some vegetables. They don't have the yet, which is like a key ingredient, which is a fermented shellfish. That's the key ingredient in Chebodian. And we're going to talk about that later.
Yes.
And the vegetables in the Sierra Leonean version are still chopped up a little bit larger. Mm-hmm. Then we move on to countries further east again, like say Liberia. Liberia, they also put mixed veg in it. And this is something I wanted to point out. Mixed veg seems to be an optional thing for Ghanaian and Nigerian jollof. I've seen both make mixed veg for different reasons, most of them health. But it seemed to me that Liberia was specific. Your jollof rice has to include mixed veg. And this is cut smaller. So like, you know how you have a frozen bag of mixed veg, small carrots, small peas, kind of cut that size. And so they used that. It kind of reminded me of jambalaya versus jollof. Because you know how jambalaya, the look of it is a little bit more wet. It's almost like not all the stew is completely absorbed. Yeah, and Liberian jollof also involved a lot of stirring, based on what I saw, which I found very interesting. Because I don't know about you, Yemi, but I think for us, it's like a criminal offense to touch a jollof rice too much while it's cooking.
Yeah, we don't. Yes. So Nigerians don't, at least the way I was
taught. As far as we know.
Yeah, you don't stir it because you don't want it to get mushy.
Exactly.
I was about to say the word potopoto, but then I realized the last time we had to like define it, and I was like, okay, what word did I use to define potopoto? I was like, oh yeah, mushy.
It's mushy, but yeah, so this one wasn't quite mushy, but it was kind of stewy to begin with. So they do a lot of stirring with that. And they also, I noticed, there's some elements that I introduced that I don't typically see in jollof with Liberian rice. So a lot of it is like these big cut sausages. That comes in as well. Usually an assortment of meat, chicken, sausages, and stuff like that. When you go to Burkina Faso, you start to see some people have vegetables, some people don't. It kind of, again, this is where it starts to vary by region and by cook style, right? Yeah. But one of the things I found is, so in Liberia, they're pretty open to, I think they're not as fixated on the type of rice, but I've seen a lot of people use jasmine rice. And then when you're in Burkina Faso, I see that as well. Some people use parboiled, some people use jasmine rice. Same with Benin, Togo, and Cote d'Ivoire, right? Some have cut up veggies, some don't. Which brings us, as we continue to go west, to two of the loudest mouths when it comes to jollof rice, Ghana and Nigeria.
Okay, talk about
Now, we're going to talk about them mainly because of what the bone of contention is. There are a couple of differences. Both of them use tomatoes, onions, peppers. Ghana, I think, is a little bit heavier on onions, garlic, and ginger. That's a big part of the broth and also part of the stew. Blended onions, garlic, and ginger. And a fantastic key ingredient I'm going to talk about later. The key difference is the kind of rice that it is. Ghanaians will typically not go anywhere near short-grained parboiled rice. Right? And to give you to give a bit of background, something I learned is that parboiled rice is not pre-boiled rice. It hasn't been boiled yet. I always thought that parboiled rice meant they boiled it a little bit to remove some of the starch, but that's not actually what parboiled means. Parboiled is rice that has been steamed in the husk, and what that does is releases some of the nutrients out of the husk into the endosperm, meaning that when they mill the rice, it's gotten a bit more of the nutrients out of the rice. Because the fact is that white rice is not really healthy compared to brown rice because a lot of the nutrients are lost. But when you parboil the rice, it preserves a little bit more of the nutrients. So typically, Ghanaians will always favor jasmine rice. And I remember this very clearly because my first roommate, she was from Ghana. And I used to wonder, I'm like, oh my God, look at this other rice, so much cheaper. But because we used to do groceries together, the one place where I had to give in was I would always bought jasmine rice. And I couldn't understand it. And then it took me a while to realize that is actually a rice that people in Ghana are very much used to. So that's one of the key distinctions. So because of that, Ghanaians look at Nigerians and like, look at your low quality rubbish rice that we will not touch. And Nigerians look at you and go like, well, it's Ghana Jaloff, so it's inferior. Another thing that sets us apart, another key difference is that compared to other countries, Nigeria uses a lot of peppers. So tatashe or Scotch bonnet peppers, from what I could see, we actually use the highest proportion. It's not as much as a key feature compared to other places. We have
stomachs of steel.
That's one thing, that is true. But also, I think it's even just the kind of pepper, because tatashe, which is like, I don't know what it is called in English, but the best substitute is bell pepper. Bell pepper is actually sweet. So that's other countries.
Long pepper.
Red, no. Well, the long one isn't very hot either, but just even the regular bell peppers you can use. So the point is that we don't use as much tomato as we use pepper, typically. Yeah. So these are just some of the key differences that you have as you go across the continent.
Yeah, and I find like not only do different regions have their own spin, but I mean, even between us, the way we are talking, like you can tell that different people have different spices or quirks that can be very, very personal, right? So for example, like I wouldn't use bell peppers. I've forgotten what they're called, but they're just longer peppers. The same one I use for stew. That's the same one I would use. Like for me, a bell pepper is way too sweet. Like I would not use a bell pepper in my jollof rice.
Okay.
It can be very personal dish.
Yeah.
And there are newer and less stressful ways of making it, like mixing the rice with the stew and then steaming it in the oven, you know, because modern life is bae.
Yep.
There's the coconut jollof rice option that uses coconut milk or fresh coconut that has been grated or soaked. Interesting, but go on, sis. Go on, bro.
Yeah.
You know.
You haven't had that?
No, it sounds weird. Will you make it for me? Why are you pausing? You heard me. I asked if you're going to make it for me.
And I'm saying no. I'm absolutely saying no.
At least help my matter now. You know we're recording. You could have just said yes and then later tell me no.
I'm most definitely. There's one thing you can take away from viewers is that I will not be making this rice for you.
Wow.
But no, I was going to say, like, people make coconut jollof and they use coconut milk. But before I knew of coconut milk, when I was at home in Nigeria, they'd make it out of fresh coconut because we had coconut trees at home. So they'd actually break it, grate it. It's such a process. Grate it and then soak it in water overnight. And then strain out the water and use that to make the coconut.
But how does the coconut taste with the tomato and the stew in it?
It tastes really good. So you've never made jollof rice with coconut milk?
No.
It's actually pretty good. It just has a hint of coconut in it. It's very nice, actually. Have you had regular coconut rice? Not coconut jollof, just coconut rice?
Yeah, that tastes great.
Oh, okay. Coconut jollof is delicious. Like when you already mentioned, there are different people that make things different ways in terms of spices, right? So some people will even use cinnamon. I've heard people use nutmeg. Some people use crayfish. Some people use grains of celery, that long black pepper.
And now that we add all these differences, the way people make their jollof rice to how each country likes to make theirs, then add all that to how dramatic and passionate Africans can be. Like, if we love something, we love it. My goodness. If you want to see Africans and passion, you know, when our passion comes out, it's strong. It's strong. If you can picture that, you can start to understand why they are serious. We don't mean like, oh, stop it, hun. But no, there are serious arguments about who makes the best jollof.
It is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, I remember, we already mentioned his name so many as well, but not to like make it into an issue, but I kind of felt bad for him. But there's a British cook called Jamie Oliver who did an interpretation of jollof rice, right? But it caused such a ruckus, such an issue. But him aside, it is not unusual. Like once, we even use jollof rice to insult people. So as a Nigerian now, I can say this because I have a bit of both in me. I can just look at somebody, I'm like, look at you. Why is your face like that? Looking like Ghana Jaloff. Basically saying your face looks like Ghana Jaloff implying is not great. And vice versa. Right? We all do it to each other. There's so many sides.
It even can be used as a compliment, right? You know, my sweet porero, my darling jollof rice. Because jollof rice is so beloved. Then instead of saying my darling, the person is saying like my jollof rice. You understand what I mean? I know we keep hamping on it, just how beloved it is, but it really is.
And the best part of it is we don't have a concrete reason why, right? It's all emotional. We just love it.
All right, so now let's talk about the dishes we made, right? Like, we're going on and on.
We could do this all day.
We can do this all day. This is not a joke. We can actually just talk about our love for it all day. But let's actually get into the heart of the episode, which is the dishes we made. And since it's a Jollof special, we obviously had to pay homage to where it began, And so we made Trebudien. We found that Senegal, Gambia, and Mali tend to make their rice in a similar way with chunky vegetables, and Ijoma has covered some of this. We made Ghanaian and Nigerian Jollof, not only because they are the loudest in the argument, but also because typically these countries use very different kinds of rice, so it's really good to compare. Ghanaians use jasmine, as Ijoma has described so eloquently earlier. Nigerian cooks are open to all types of rice, but mainly use parboiled rice or short-grained rice, and then we boil it to remove some of the starch. I grew up using longer-grained rice, but again, as they say, we're not very particular on the type of rice. Other countries like Cameroon, Liberia, and Sierra Leone, Togo, and Benin Republic seem to go with one or the other and are not really tied to one when you look at it from a country's perspective. The rice used seems to be a very personal choice. The fourth type of rice that we tried was jollof rice, Liberian style. We chose Liberia for this reason. In general, people add mixed veggies based on personal choice, but it seems to be a staple for Liberian jollof. Like other countries, Liberian jollof might include beef and chicken, but it also has proteins like shrimp and sausages. So Nigeria and Ghana, for instance, might serve jollof with one kind of protein like beef or chicken or goat on the side, but a lot of the Liberian recipes we have seen have multiple kinds of meat and they are already mixed in with the rice. This is similar to what we have seen in Francophone countries like Burkina Faso that call it rigra. The last kind of rice we tried was palm oil jollof rice. This is very different because for one thing you use palm oil. Also, the protein style is typically different. It has dried prawns and dried fish. And if it is Nigerian palm oil rice, it will also normally have what is called pomo or cow skin. Apart from this, there aren't a lot of spices like your curry, thyme, and stuff like that. It is just crayfish, pepper, and salt.
So let's talk about what we made. What I'm going to do is we'll go kind of in the order that we gave people to try. Because we talked about how we gave our friends food to try. We just labeled them 1 to 5 and got them to choose. So the first one, I think you now know which one.
I now know which one. Okay, so the way it worked is that Ijoma surprised all of us. Yes, I have my favorites. And I feel like my Nigerians are gonna hate me, but okay, I'll just put it aside for now.
Please, I'm taking new co-hosts for the show if anybody wants to. Yeah. I'm just saying that by the side.
Wow. I feel the pressure of the bus on me. Thanks, Ijoma. Please drive it back and forth a little bit. Thank you. So yeah, let's go in the order and then we can actually just expose what the dishes were as we talk about them and in the order from like 1 to 5 because we did all 5.
Oh, okay. The first dish was Liberian Jaloff. For that, you need your basics: tomatoes, onions, depending on how hot you want it, some small hot peppers. You also need to have pre-boiled your meats, seasoned it to your likability level. Typically, have your salt, pepper, curry, thyme to make your meat as flavorful as you want because you're going to use the broth and the broth is a key part of the rice. But for this particular one, for the Liberian one, we had, for the protein, I had a mix of meat, chicken, shrimp, and some sausage. We had 1 red bell pepper, some hot peppers, some garlic, which was a little bit different, tin tomatoes, and some rice and mixed veg. Specifically, they asked for jasmine rice, so we used that. So you pre-cooked your meat. We also like our meats fried. So after you've boiled it, you shallow fry it, or you can deep fry it if you want, in some oil. And then if you use a lot of oil, you drain some of that oil away and then use the rest of it to make your food. So kind of like what we said, they follow the same process. After we've cooked the proteins, you have your blend, you've blended your tomatoes, your garlic, your peppers together, and then you would fry everything in the oil. What made this different was there was a bit of cumin, pepper, and mixed veg. And what we did was after the stew was mixed and cooked a little bit, we added the rice and just kept stirring and stirring. Stirred frequently until it was done. I think I was stirring once every 5 to 10 minutes. Typically, jollof rice will cook in your stew in like 30 minutes or so. So that's what we did. So that was number 1. The second one was Chebudien. And that is definitely the most elaborate one. It required a lot of work because, like you said...
When Ijoma says elaborate, she means when you see the pictures, you will understand why the word elaborate is being used.
Yeah. So for Chebudien, you use cracked rice, or actually broken rice. So I used broken jasmine rice, which we kind of mentioned before. It almost looks like couscous, but it's rice. You have the same blend of things. There's some things that I want to point out. So we also have vegetables, but like we mentioned, these vegetables are cut largely, like in pretty large sizes. We used carrots, eggplant, cassava, believe it or not, sweet potato, and then we had fish. So the key elements of chebudien is your chopped up vegetables, very important.
Yeah.
The second is your rough. Rough is for the fish, which Yemi didn't taste.
I did not. Yes.
She doesn't know what she's missing. Rough is a beautiful mix of parsley, garlic, habanero pepper, black pepper, ground chili, and salt. And you can either use a food processor to chop. You probably use a food processor to chop them off really roughly, or you can hand pound them, which I was not planning to do. And also you can put in a seasoning cube. So the fish that you want to use is something that won't break up really easily in your stew. I went with red snapper. And so when you make this this mix, you put holes in your fish and then you stuff your fish all around with this. So that's the second aspect. The third important aspect of your chebudien is the fermented seafood that you use to cook it. And this was where it was a bit of an interesting journey for us and for all who tasted it.
Yeah, I think every single person who tasted this dish had something to say about that. Yeah. Yes.
And talking to other people who've tried chebudien, it could be that, I don't think it was that they made it without elements, but maybe they make bigger pots, so maybe the concentration was too much.
Oh, okay.
So there's a fermented shellfish called yet, and a dried salted fish called wedge. And those two need to come into the dish, but we found them to be really, really, really strong, that it went all the way into the smell of the rice. And that could be an acquired taste, but I suspect that it may have been a little bit too much. So how this works, basically, you stuff your fish, you kind of do the same thing, you put your oil in, then you add your yet to flavor the oil, you add your tomatoes, peppers. There was no broth involved in this. Once all of that has cooked for a bit, you put in your whole veggies and your fish. Once the fish is done, you bring it out. Then you cook the veggies until the veggies are done. So they're cooking from raw inside. I was a bit scared because of the cassava, because I'm paranoid about cassava. It has to be completely cooked or else it can be poisonous. Yeah. But we're all alive, so great. So you cook all the veggies, you bring that out. Once all of that is done, then you put in the rice and then you cook that. Once the rice is cooked, you serve it, like we said, on a big dish with all the veggies and all the fish piled onto it. The third one that we made was Ghana Jaloff. I want to say this. I may make fun, I may crack jokes, but I learned something amazing from making this dish. And if you look on my Continue Before Pantry, I talk about a spice called star anise. Star anise and anise seed, both of those things in your jollof will raise it to levels that you've never understood.
I actually use it in my jollof, actually.
Which one?
My Nigerian jollof. I put star anise.
No, which star anise or anise seed?
Star anise.
Oh, nice.
I use it to make the broth.
That's exactly what you used it for. So star anise, if you guys are not familiar, it has like a kind of licorice. And by licorice, I don't mean the candy, but there's a licorice spice. It's not mint exactly, but it's mentholy in a way. It was really amazing for the broth. Anise seed, I'd never heard of being used in jollof before, but it seems to be quite common in Ghana. So in case anybody's not familiar with the English name and you're Ghanaian, it's what is called in Nkiti.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So what was different about this one is there's a lot of flavor that goes into the broth itself. Garlic, ginger, onions are a must-have, and then some blended anise seed and a star anise thrown in, and that's used to cook the meat. Then it's fried. Then, as we said before, Ghana uses jasmine rice for sure.
Yeah.
Nothing else, only jasmine. And once the broth is ready, then you go through the process of cooking the stew. You fry your onions, you add your fresh tomatoes, you fry in your tin tomatoes. So here's one key thing. Ghanaian jollof, the stew is fried, like it's cooked until it's done. Like you cook that mix for almost 30 to 40 minutes until it's almost completely dried. That's, I think, why Ghanaian jollof compared to Nigerian, you might see is a very dark color. It's somewhere between a light, almost not brown, but like a dark reddish orange, almost going towards a light brownish color. Okay. Because it's very concentrated with the stew. Another thing that I found interesting, there's a toasting process that goes on. So you toast it where you put the rice in, and you don't pour your water or anything. You just put the rice into that thick stew and you stir it around. On the blog, I'll post a picture where all I did was just stir around the rice in the stew for about 2 to 3 minutes to get it twisted before you add your broth or any liquid for the rice to cook in. So it takes like 30 to 40 minutes for that. Number 4 is a bit of a different spin on jollof rice because this doesn't use peanut or vegetable oil. This uses palm oil. In Nigeria, it's called iwuk edesi. It's the same process. So you have your palm oil, you heat it up, you mix your tomatoes and your peppers, you cook it together, you add the rice. This usually uses cow skin, like we said before, and some dried smoked prawns. And at the end of the day, you chop some kale into it. But it doesn't use any of your spices like garlic or ginger, no curry. The seasoning that goes into it is salt, pepper, crayfish, and you're pretty much done.
Okay.
Last but by no means least was Nigerian Jaloff. For this one, everybody makes it a bit differently, but there's a kind of rice that we like called party jollof, which is a smoky rice. And I wanted to make smoky rice because it's a distinct part of Nigerian culture. It's served at parties. Some people achieve it in different ways by burning the rice on purpose, which I've always thought was a waste of rice. I found this recipe particularly amazing. I'm going to mention it in the blog because it didn't ask you to deliberately burn any rice. The key was to roast your peppers and your onions beforehand to make them a little bit charred. And then when you blend and cook, the smokiness comes through. Another thing is to use a stainless steel pot. Because the stainless steel, the quality of the stainless steel pot is not that great sometimes. And so what it does is that it transmits heat a lot faster, which causes the food to cook really quickly and start to burn by itself. So you don't even have to deliberately burn anything. By default, the bottom is going to just burn and you're going to get that smokiness come through. Another thing I did deliberately with this recipe was I didn't use a lot of pepper. I used a lot of white pepper, but I didn't want to make it too hot. I was just aiming for something that was smoky. Just to make sure that we're all on the same page here. The first dish was Liberian Jaloff, number 1. Number 2 was Chebudien from Senegal. Number 3 is from Ghana. Number 4 is a palm oil jollof rice. And number 5 is Nigerian jollof rice.
Yeah, and I think before we even go into our friends and what they thought, how about we say what we thought? Okay, again, we're trying to be unbiased, but...
Well, clearly somebody was not biased, because, you know...
I'll let you go first because... Yeah. So, okay. How about we start this way? Let's do the exact same way we asked our friends the question. What was your favorite one? And why? Let's do it.
No, I'm actually not going to.
Okay,
I don't want
to. All right. You know what?
But you can do it if you want.
No.
I can give you Yami's address.
Okay, do you know what? How about this?
Okay.
Talk about the dishes, what you felt about them. And you don't have to rank them because obviously you don't want people to show up at your house. But I have a dog. So come at me, I don't bro. Have a
dog. Okay. So, the Liberian one, that was the first one. I liked the vegetable mix. It added a little bit of sweetness to it. It was very subtle. I found it very subtle, the taste. And I'm going to make a comment about this regarding the Liberian rice and Ghanaian rice, because I use jasmine for them both. And I'm sorry, guys, just speaking in general, I think I find jasmine a bit too strong for jollof rice. Like, jasmine is a very pleasant rice, but I find it so dominating that it can take over the sauce, take over the stew, everything. And so when you're eating it, even if you're eating jollof, you know that what you're eating is jasmine. And I kind of think that was what happened with the Liberian one, because for the spices, I think she said she used this to season her meat. She used something called seasoning salt, but that's a very generic name. So I didn't know what seasoning was the seasoning salt. So I kind of went on my own, used a little bit of curry, a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, but I didn't want to go do the most, right? So maybe that was part of it. So I just found it very subtle, not particularly distinctive, but just nice, right? Kind of neutral to the palate. I was surprised though, because I was a bit panicky when I first started cooking in the beginning and I tasted the stew pre-cook. I found I could taste something bitter. I thought it was the onions and I was freaking out. But when I tasted it later, I was like, oh, okay, this is not so bad. So yeah, it was just nice. It was nice. Chebudien. We talked about the yet and the fermented fish. That definitely came through in the rice for me, and I found the smell a little bit strong. I loved the ruff, which was that fish seasoning I was telling you about. The fish was really good. The vegetables was really good. for me, if I would make chebedian again, but I wouldn't add the yet and the wedge, or I'd add just like a small, really small amount.
The yet is really, really strong, and it has this really interesting smell. So I don't know. Not a fan. But go on. Yeah. Sorry, Gemma. Sorry for cutting you off.
It's okay. Overall, though, I thought it was a nice mix of flavors. I think what for me I struggled with at first was the smell, but once I got over that, I thought that the flavors had blended really well. The parsley was in it doing its work. The vegetables were really good. I would definitely eat it if somebody else made it. The only reason why I wouldn't make it is because it's so much work, guys. When people say, Senegalese jollof is the best, well, you know what? If we all put all those things into our rice, and instead of making a quick rice, you know what I mean?
Again, you'll hear this in our interview with Letabo and Mitch, but I essentially had to do what Letabo did. I had to cover my nose when tasting it. I closed my nose and tasted the food. It was so strong. That yet, it was really hard to...
Okay. For the Ghanaian jollof, again, I talked about the anise. I'm now going to be making my jollof with anise seed and star anise for sure. I really liked the stew before I put the rice in. And I think this is going back to what I said about jasmine rice. I would make that particular Ghanaian sauce again, but I would try with the boiled rice. So Ghanaians, I want to say something. I think your jollof stew is amazing, but I think that you can put it on an even bigger platform by trying it with boiled rice.
So Ijoma lives at...
I'm just saying because I feel like once the jasmine rice entered, it just took over everything. And I lost some of the flavor of the sauce. Maybe I will try it again with basmati. If parboiled is such an abomination, I'll try it again with basmati. But I liked it. Mm-hmm. The palm oil jollof for me was a nice surprise, except for the dried smoked prawns, which I thought I would like. I knew I would like. I don't like smoked seafood so much. Smoked fish, smoked prawns, smoked anything. I'm not really a fan. So I thought, okay, well, maybe it'll taste better this time. It did not to me. I didn't like crunching through that. But the rest of the rice was amazing. I loved the pomo, which is the cow skin. It was soft and delicious. It was very distinctly palm oily, so I could taste it, but I liked it. Another thing I forgot to mention was that I added something called dawa dawa or iru. I don't remember what other names there are for it. In its roasted form, it looks like black pellets, hard black pellets. Then number 5 was Nigerian Jaloff rice. Guys, that was actually my favorite. I said I wasn't going to pick one. Okay, no. But that's okay for me. I'll tell you why. And there's definitely a lot of bias attached to it. There was nostalgia. That's really what it was.
Mm-hmm.
The smoky.
I think you and Emeka also then have the same. Because I think that was what Emeka and Neka were going to say. Yeah, you guys will hear it soon. Yeah.
If it hadn't been smoky, and let me be clear, or not all Nigerian jollof rice is smoky. If it hadn't been smoky Nigerian jollof rice, my answer may have been a bit different. But I tasted it and I was like, oh, it's a little sweet. I have that party flavor going on. I love it. It wasn't overly peppery. So again, the recipe is going to be on the blog. You add pepper to your liking if you decide to make this dish. People thought there wasn't a lot of heat for it.
Yeah.
I will say though that I'm going to try some experiments. I'm going to try making that smoky jollof sauce, and I'm going to use jasmine rice to make it. And then I'm going to try the Ghanaian sauce, and I'm going to use the parboiled rice to make it. And I'm going to see what happens. Because
Are you going to share this on Tutti for Pantry when you're done?
I might, actually.
That'll be really cool.
I might. Because I'm a strong believer, after trying all these dishes, that jasmine rice is fantastic for stews and curries and sauces. But personally, I wouldn't use it for jollof rice. I think it takes away too much and just makes everything just taste like rice, like just plain rice. Mm-hmm. But that was it for me. What did you think?
Yeah, and I might need you to remind me which one is which again, because I essentially took my notes down based on numbers, because obviously you didn't tell me.
No, you tell me the number and I'll tell you which one it was.
All
no,
right.
What I mean is, you tell me this. No, tell me what you thought about number 1, and then I'll tell you what number 1 is. Aha.
Okay. All right. Who wants my Nigerian passports? Because number 1 was my favorite.
What?
Yes.
This is 2 times now you talked about Liberia. Officially, it was cabbage than this.
I'm so sorry. It was so good. I really liked the vegetables. I liked how fluffy the rice was.
The Liberian and the Ghanaian rice are the same.
Yeah, like I really like the texture. I like the veggies. I like the mix of the flavors. I really like the smell. And when I ate it, it didn't feel like, you know how sometimes you eat food and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to fall asleep. Ugh. No, it felt light and fluffy. I don't know. Sorry. I really like that food. It was like my favorite.
I know a house that you can go and live in. I'll call them. They'll come and pick you up.
Like immediately I tasted number 5, which was, Nigerian Jaloff. I knew it was Nigerian Jaloff. But you know where you taste something and you're like, oh my God. Like I didn't expect this to be good, but I really like it. So basically this is how I tasted. So I essentially had a bite of each one. Mm-hmm. Then I tasted it 1 to 5. Then I tasted it back 5 to 1.
Did you cleanse your palate each time?
Yes. Mm-hmm. And then I eliminated the ones I didn't like, the bottom 2. Then I did those 3 that was left. Mm-hmm. And then I eliminated 1. And then it was essentially an elimination game. Because some of them came pretty close. Again, I fancy myself, a taster. Okay. So anyway, please.
No, number 1 is good. I'm actually just surprised because for me, I couldn't taste much of anything. So I'm surprised. But let's keep going.
Yeah. My least favorite, in case you can't already tell by the interjections I've been making, was the number 2. I believe that's Djibouti.
Yeah.
Yeah. First of all, once I opened the pack, the smell hit me. Like, it was just like, oh my God. Like, when you eat something and it's like in your face and I'm like, oh my God, what is this?
And I think it's important for us to say, like, it wasn't like a bad smell. It was just very in your face as a smell. And if you're not like a seafood person, then you won't like it.
Yeah, I guess if you're into seafood, then it's not bad. But if you really don't like seafood, like I do, to me, it took a lot for me to eat that. And I think I tasted it. It was an easy elimination for me. And again, if you're really into seafood, you might like it. Because again, there's the fermentation process. So that probably made that yet very strong.
Yeah.
And Ijoma has made a comment before about maybe the proportion of the yet to the food that was cooked made it even stronger. But for me, as someone that does not like fish, like I really find it revolting. For me, that was really hard. And you find fish revolting, just to be clear. I find fish revolting.
Yeah.
And I don't actually find shrimp or anything else like that revolting. But the fish, I just find very revolting. So for me, even eating that, this is going to sound bad, but I had to like cover my nose just so that I wouldn't smell it. But all I could do was taste it. Wow. When I took away the smell factor and tasted it, it actually tasted.
That's the thing.
So the taste was actually tasty.
Mm-hmm.
But, a lot of people eat with their nose as well as their eyes, as they say. So for me, that kind of, it wasn't bad. It was just like put it at the bottom, considering everything else I was eating.
Sorry, just to interrupt you. Let me mention one more thing. Just to note, guys, I actually took out the bread and the yet after.
Yeah, so it didn't even cook all the way in.
No, it cooked all the way. Just before I put in the rice, and then I took it out because I was like, well, this is really strong. So again, what I'll do is I have pictures of both. And just for context, I think we ended up using 3 or 4 cups of rice. Hopefully the issue was that the yet was too much. But either way, for me, even in small doses, I don't think I like that particular fish. So I wouldn't use it at all.
Yeah.
But sorry.
So the Nigerian Jaloff came in right after number 1 for me, which was number 5. Okay. And the reason, again, that smoky familiarity, it was, when you eat something and you just start to smile, that was it for me. So Nigerian Jaloff came in very close second. Personally, Ijoma and I have very different like spice/pepper thresholds. So if I was making it myself, it would definitely be much more spicy. Like the way I would make jollof rice when I'm eating it personally versus how I would make jollof rice when I'm having guests is slightly different because I will adjust the pepper. So I think that was really good. After that, it came in number 3. Again, number 3, I really liked the rice that was used. I don't know what it was, but there was like almost like a fatty taste.
Yes.
Thing.
Yes.
I did not like that.
Maybe there are two things I can think of. So this was, to be credited to the Ghanaian jollof. And what you said to me now, liking the rice texture, tells me that you like jasmine rice.
I probably
because those are the two dishes that had jasmine rice and jollof. So I am like team no jasmine for jollof, and Yemi is clearly team jasmine for jollof. I believe jasmine should be eaten with the curry or with the stew. Yeah. That fatty thing could be either the fried goats, because there were some cuts of goat that were fatty, or when you say it was fatty, was it a mouthfeel, or was it just a sensation, or was it a mouthful? Then it must have been the goat, because anise seed, not star anise seed in kitten, so I find that it enhances fatty flavors in a way.
Yeah, like I did not a fan. #no.
So
that puts that below. And then after that, it comes the number 4. And I've said this in several episodes, but for me, it's really tricky to make palm oil in a meal. I personally don't like a fatty taste in my mouth when I'm eating. Like, I don't like it in meat. I'm one of those people, call me weird or whatever, even when I'm eating bacon, I cut out all the fats, all of it, before I even start making the bacon. Like, I don't like it. I don't like it. So there's something about palm oil, and sometimes the way it's made, it seems kind of like oily and fatty in your mouth. And that feel, for me, kind of puts it down. But it's funny because even in my head when I'm ranking it, there's a big gap between number 4, which was my second to the least favorite, and number 2. If I have to close my nose to eat the food, there's a problem. Like, no. Okay, yeah, to summarize, my number 1 was number 1.
Liberia,
no, yeah. My number 2 was number 5.
Nigeria.
My number 3 was number 3.
Ghana.
My number 4 was number 4. And my number 5 was number 2.
Tibetan.
Yeah.
Okay. And I had no favorites.
You obviously said Nigerian Jaloff was your favorite. Don't even.
No, I didn't say that. Wasn't me. That was my spirit. I had no favorites. Okay. It just came out. I actually had no intention of saying which one was my favorite. And then it just fell out. And then Ghana was a close second. I need to stop before I keep going.
But yeah, that's me. And if you guys try these meals, let us know. And yeah, listen to what our friends have to say.
We had our friends Emeka and Nneka try, first of all. Both of them moved to Canada from Nigeria. Then we talked to Efia and Marian. Efia was born in Ghana. We wanted to get some balance. And Marian moved here from Croatia. And then we had 2 completely neutral people. Mitch, who's from New Brunswick in Canada, and Letabo, who moved from South Africa. We didn't tell them what they were going to taste, obviously. We just assigned each dish with a number, and those are the numbers we described before. And only revealed what they were after we got their feedback.
Hi, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you for joining us and agreeing to be our test subjects.
We're going to introduce our friends, Emeka and Nneka, looking very spunky, guys. I know you people can't see them, but they're looking pretty fly. How are you guys doing?
We're good.
Well, yeah, she said we are good, so I'll go with her. We are good.
Basically, to jump right in, we just wanted to give you guys a chance to tell us about the dishes that you tried. You tried all 5 kinds of rice. Going right into it, Nneka, if you were to pick your number 1 dish, which one would it be?
It'll be dish number 5.
Dish number 5.
And reason behind that was it had a smoky flavor, and it was almost like familiar taste. So that was actually the thing I liked the most about it.
Emeka, how about yourself?
Same, actually. I chose number 5.
Okay.
The smoky taste was it for me. And it's almost like a familiar taste, that patty jollof rice. It was a third one that I tasted. But as soon as I tasted it, I just knew, okay, like this is a familiar taste. I like the smokiness, and I just waited until I tasted everything before I ranked. But yeah, number 5 was my number 1.
So it seems like the smokiness and the familiarity of that smokiness was the nostalgic factor for you.
Well, in whole, the smokiness for me was just it for me, right?
Okay.
And then the fact that as I tasted everything, the others were not that familiar. So the smokiness was number 1 factor, and the fact that this is something that at least I'm used to, and it just reminded me of patty jollof rice.
So if you had to rank one the least favorite, which one would that be?
Number 2. I don't like that combination, man.
So, what about the combination didn't you like?
Well, it was just too much. And hold on, I had something here. So number 2, is that rice? That's not rice. That's like, is that bulgur or whatever? That's not rice.
No, it was rice. We'll talk about
Really?
that later, but it was rice. It's just not
Okay,
rice.
well,
Before. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. It didn't seem like rice to me. In fact, I didn't know that was fish. When I saw it, then I tasted it, it's like, oh, this is fish. Okay, well. And then, again, when you eat everything together, like the sweet potato, the Irish potato, the fish, no, that's way.
Your taste
The
buds
taste was just dancing in my stomach. Like it was just, they were just fighting each other. It's like when you do laundry and you put your yellow shirt and your green shirt and your blue shirt, everything, that was just it for me. It was just too much.
Okay. But in terms of the taste itself, if you were to taste the rice by itself, did you?
So yes, yeah, I did. The taste by itself, it was okay, but it's not what I would go for.
Okay, Neka.
My least favorite was number 1. Reason because it wasn't as flavorful as the rest of the dishes.
Mm-hmm.
It did have an Asian flavor to it or taste to it, so it was familiar. It was nice, but not as flavorful as the rest of them.
Okay. How would you rank the remaining 3?
So I have number 2 as the 4th.
Mm-hmm.
I have number 3 as the 3rd, and I have number 4 as the 1st.
For me, so this number 3 was my second.
Mm-hmm.
Dish number 4 was number 4 for me, and then dish number 1 was number 3.
Can you go through them again from your favorite to your least favorite, just so we have it clear for our audience?
Sure. So my favorite was number 5. My second choice was number 3. My third choice was number 1. Fourth choice was number 4. And then my least favorite was number 2.
Okay. Neka, how about you?
So the first one for me is dish number 5.
Mm-hmm.
The second is dish number 4. Third is dish number 3. Fourth is dish number 2, and then the last is dish number 1.
Oh no, you just went backwards.
In the order, right? Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so Ijeoma is going to reveal to you which dish is which one.
I think it's already obvious. We're talking to 2 Nigerians and they recognized one dish instantly. Look at Neka's face. She's so excited. So dish number 5 was Nigerian Jaloff.
Yeah.
Dish
Nice.
number 4 was palm oil rice.
My first impression was palm oil, scent leaf, dry fish. Familiar taste.
I did my job well.
Mm-hmm.
Dish number 3 was Ghanaian. Dish number 2 was Chebudian from Senegal. And number 1 was Liberian.
Wow. Alrighty.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Anything you want to say before we sign off?
We should do this small thing.
I think it's quite interesting. I wouldn't have guessed number 4 having that palm oil in it. There was one that I noticed like too much curry or too much turmeric.
Which one was that?
Number 3.
Mm-hmm.
It was curry, right?
Yeah.
Good
So-
part of curry contains turmeric, right? Curry is not a
Yeah,
spicy
yeah.
substance, so yeah. And to answer your question, you said you weren't sure if the other one was rice, that it looked like bulgur. It's broken jasmine rice. So
It looked different.
And while I have you on the phone, Emeka, I have a question for you. Because you're both Igbo. Did you get a scent from that, like the rice number 2?
So that number 2 is just different.
Would you try it again? Is it because it was so different, apart from the explosion of different things? Is it because
I tried it again. I was just trying to pinpoint it, right? I was just trying
Okay.
to figure out, okay, like what is it? There's something here that I cannot guess,
Mhm.
right?
Oh, okay. No, so
No.
there's a particular kind of shellfish that's used that has a very strong smell. And it made me think that I wouldn't use it personally for jollof, but I would use it for one of the Igbo soups. I could
Ooh.
picture it, I know, I could picture it in bitter leaf soup, but not in jollof rice.
No, maybe like a fish something, but not bitter leaf soup.
Okay.
Fish pepper soup, fish and yam, yeah, but bitter leaf soup, no. I think we should do bitter leaf soup next.
Yeah. Thank you guys for joining us on our podcast. You know what? Have yourselves a great
Great day.
day.
And wish our listeners a happy World Jollof Day, please.
Happy World Jaloff Day!
Yay! Thank you. Bye.
Okay, so now we're talking to two more friends, Efia from Ghana and Marian from Croatia originally. We're all in Canada. So, hi guys, thank you for agreeing to be our test subjects. How are you doing
Thank
today?
you. We're good.
Really good.
Okay,
Good.
just going to start off by asking which was your favorite and which was your least favorite and why. Efia, you want to take it away?
Yes. So I couldn't actually test one because I don't eat seafood. I eat fish, but I don't eat shellfish. So because it had shrimp, but I think that was one that Marian really liked, the number one, right?
Yes.
Yes. So Marian did test number one.
Okay.
So by comparison, I think without guessing like who's worse from what and none of that, I like 3 the most.
Okay.
My palate has evolved a little bit from things that are too heavy, and I guess found it to be the lightest in taste, right? So without any like serious flavors. And out of the 4 that I did try, so number 4 didn't taste like jollof rice to me. It tasted like, you know how we eat spinach and contemporary?
Yes.
Asian spinach, stew, and rice. So that's the taste that I got from that one. I liked it for that reason, but I didn't think of it in terms of jollof rice relative to the other ones.
Okay.
But so for that reason, I like the rice contemporary. I wouldn't say it was my least favorite. It was just not like jollof for me. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, like, which one was your least favorite?
I would say number 2, only because of the fish in it. Like I just found that the fish overpowered it, so it was not really a fair comparison. Because I was thinking like, what would it taste without the fish, right? But I really like the incorporation of the vegetables in there, and really did like it. I noticed that the rice was textured a little bit different than the rest, like how it's smaller. Just because of the fish, I would say that would be my least favorite. But it would be interesting to know what it's like without, like, with maybe like chicken or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, quick question. So when you say the fish, you mean the fish flavor in the rice, or the fish?
Yes, the fish flavor in the rice. Yes.
Okay.
So the actual fish tasted just fine. It was just the smell of it in the rice. Yeah.
The smell. That's what I was gonna ask. And one other quick question: the fish that you tasted, like the fish itself, was that a different flavor from the fish flavor that you were tasting in the rice, or was it the same?
On its own, the fish didn't really come off too strongly. On its own, it was just the stock of it in the rice.
Okay.
So I was able to still eat the fish and enjoy it. I think because I know the fish. Is it catfish?
The one that you ate?
Yeah.
One in the rice. No, it wasn't catfish that you ate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, the fish in itself was fine. It's just the stock of it in the jollof rice that I didn't like.
Okay, cool.
So, Martin, what was your least favorite?
Well, I agree with Afia. The fish taste took over too much of the everything else. Yeah, the one with the fish, and the 4th one also had spices were too strong.
Okay.
So I couldn't even eat it, couldn't even try it. It was because of such a strong taste. Because I don't like something too strong in the food or smell or anything, taste or smell, right?
Okay.
So, but for everything else, they were really good.
Okay. And so you said number 1 was
Number 1 was your favorite. Number 4, it sounds like your favorite.
Yeah, number 1 and number 3 were really, really good. In number 1, I didn't like that seafood is mixed with sausages and beef. I like to keep it separate, but other than that, the taste and look of it and everything was really, really good.
Okay.
So for each of you, like let's start with Marian. If you were to rank from your best to your least favorite, in what order would it go?
Well, probably number 2 is my best, and to the least.
Babe, number 2 is
number
the one
3.
with the fish.
Yeah, sorry, number 3
is his favorite.
Then number 1, and then number 5, and then number 3 and number 4.
No, 2 and 4.
2 and 4. Sorry.
Okay.
2 and 4.
Perfect. Afia, how about yourself?
So number 3 is 1. Number 5 is 2. The contour stew one. Which one is the?
That was 4.
That's number 4.
Okay.
4, and then 2.
Okay. So I think Ijoma is going to reveal which one is from which country.
They are so biased. They're so.
Oh no!
No, I know. I'm kidding.
We didn't. Mine doesn't know anything about which country it's from. I didn't tell her.
Number 1 is Liberian. It's a Liberian recipe, the one with that you couldn't eat that had the shrimp.
Okay.
Number 2 is Chipodian from Senegal.
Oh, is that the one that everybody's always raving about?
Yes.
With the veggies and so I guess with that one, is there a standard recipe incorporate fish?
Yeah.
Or do you put okay.
Exactly. And the funny thing is that you said fish stock. There was actually no broth in that stew at all. Instead, there's a particular fermented fish called yet, and I think that's where that flavor came from. It's just the smoke, very strong. So that was number 2. Number 3 is Ghanaian Jaloff, which you probably you went for. And just to mention, number 2, that was also jasmine rice, but it was broken jasmine rice. So that's what they dip it in. Yeah. Number 4 is palm oil jollof, which is why it probably reminded you of kontomire.
Yeah, I was like, what does this kontomire do?
Yeah. So
where is that from?
Different parts. So Nigeria eats it. It's called iwu kedesi in Nigeria. And I think parts of Ivory Coast and Benin Republic also eat it. So instead of using regular oil, we use palm oil and crayfish. Yeah. There's no like thyme or curry or any of that. And number 5 was Nigerian Jaloff.
Yes, I knew that.
Yeah. You see from the rice, right?
I was like, I know this one.
Thank you both for being on our podcast. We really, really appreciate your time and being our tasters and test subjects. It'll be great if both of you can wish our listeners Happy World Jollof Day.
Happy World Jollof Day.
Hi, everyone. Welcome again. So these are our friends, Letabo and Mitch. Thank you for joining us on the podcast and for becoming our tasters and test subjects on this special. How are you guys doing?
We're good. Thank you.
Yeah,
we're happy to be here. Hopefully you didn't poison us.
Yeah. I am feeling a little tired after the taste test, so I don't know if that's a sign of anything. Thanks for inviting us.
Thank you for putting in the work. We appreciate how hard you worked now that you're tired.
It was a really hard job.
Yeah, we took your jobs very seriously.
We were very serious. Even Mina was testing with us.
Oh, nice. Mina is their son. So this is great.
Yeah.
So how about we start like this? So we'll start with Mitch. What would you say was your favorite one?
The favorite for me was dish number 3.
Okay.
So we both like dish number 3.
Ooh, let's how that was your favorite as well.
Yes, we both loved dish number 3.
Why?
We thought it was a good combination of like spices and taste. Like if the flavor was nice. Mm-hmm. And then we really liked the rice, how it was still fluffy, and the spices. I think Letabo picked up that she thought it was maybe like pepper soup spice.
It reminded me of like pepper soup, like, the Nigerian pepper soup. I don't know, I smelled that and I was like, I feel like that might have like pepper soup spices in there. I don't know. Maybe it's because I love pepper soup too much.
What was your least favorite and why?
I'm going to have to say number 2. I'm not sure if like what type of fish that was, but...
Mitch didn't eat it.
Yeah, I was
Mitch
like,
didn't have number 2.
It was mostly the smell. I just couldn't get past the smell. I was like, for me, I'm not a huge fish person, but I would have to put that one last.
So I was the one who opened up the dishes and put to try to reheat them. And I opened number 1. I was like, oh, that smells nice. And then I opened number 2. I was like, what's that smell? And then I put it in the microwave to heat it up. And I brought it out. Bitch was like, yeah, no, don't bring that to the table. I didn't taste the fish. I think it's fish that's in there. I also didn't realize that was eggplant in there. So I didn't have that. But I had every other thing. The whole time I was eating, I was like this, by the way.
She was like clipping her nose closed.
I couldn't, like I was standing there at the counter and I was trying it out. And I was like, I have to do this. I have to do this for Yemi and Ijoma. I'm going to do it. Yeah, I didn't like the smell at all. Even Mina said the smell wasn't the greatest.
Oh,
and he didn't try it.
Oh.
Like I like the potato, like I like that. I like the carrot, and I like that they were well cooked. They like, you know what I mean? They like
blended well together.
They blended well together. And like that's why I say once I plugged my nose and I was able to eat it without smelling, I actually liked the flavors in my mouth.
Mm.
So like my taste buds actually liked them. It did not like the smell. I couldn't stand the smell.
So if you had to rank them,
our favorites were pretty close. So I had 3, 5, 1, 4, and 2. She had 3, 1, 5, 4, and 2. 5, we thought it might be good for kids because it didn't have as much spice as some of the other ones. So it might be like a little bit easier for some kids that, you know, don't like the spice.
My note on 5 was I could cook that for my kids and they'll eat it.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
So both of you kind of ranked 4 as second to last. Was there a particular reason why?
And I don't really like the smell of crayfish very much.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's just like reheating fish in the microwave. I just find it overpowering. I think like maybe if you eat food fresh, it might be a different experience, but you know.
With number 4, it had a little bit more tomato sauce than all the others, and I like that. But I gotta be honest, but this is like, you know, I don't. Ijoma, you still have to cook me meals, okay? So that's all I'm gonna say, please.
Luckily for you, let me start with number 4. Number 4 actually is made in Nigeria, but it's also made in other countries. But it's actually not your typical jollof rice. Instead of being made with regular oil, it's made with palm oil. Like it's a completely different flavor profile. I don't feel bad. I don't care for smoked prawns either. So that's number 4. So number 1 is Liberia. Number 2 is Chebodian from Senegal.
Don't cover your face now. Uncover your face.
To be fair though, I'm starting to think that maybe I used too much of the fish. So the fish that you saw was actually different from the fish flavor in the rice. The fish that you have is your regular red snapper. But there is a fermented shellfish that goes into Chebodian. So that's probably what you smelled. It's called yet. Number 3 is Ghanaian Jaloff rice.
See,
Trader.
I said this to Yemi when she asked me to do this tasting thing for you guys. And I said, I like Ghanaian Jaloff rice more because I've had it more actually. And
Guys,
she
we're
was
suffering
like,
from a technical difficulty. We can't really hear what's going on.
It's
So ignore what someone was just said.
I've had it more in college. I had a friend who was actually Nigerian, but he lived in Ghana for a really long time, and he used to make Ghanaian jollof rice all the time.
So yeah, number 5 was Nigerian jollof rice, but it was like party jollof rice. Actually,
wouldn't have known that.
I don't know if you noticed it, but party jollof rice is known for a hint of smokiness.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I said to Mitch, I'm like, did she burn this a little bit?
Yes and no. It burns a little bit, and then it tends like add smokiness, to it.
Okay,
so
that makes sense. But I think Mina liked that more because he had that, and he was like, "This is really nice." So just a side note.
That's why we thought that one would be good for kids.
Yeah.
Hey, you have the kid-friendly jollof rice at least.
Yeah.
Anyway, so if you guys can say Happy World Jollof Day together to our audience, that would be great.
Happy World Jollof Day!
Thank you.
Thank you. So that's it, friends. Thanks for sticking with us. We hope you have learned a few things about jollof rice and can now say for sure which country's jollof rice is best. We kid. At the end of the day, jollof rice is a very personal thing, and that's just fact. I've had rubbish jollof rice made by a Nigerian, and I've had amazing ones. I've had tasteless jollof made by Ghanaians, and I've had some really great ones. One of my friends in Edmonton, he's like my go-to for jollof rice, and he's from Ghana. If you say, oh, Ghana jollof is the best, something is wrong with the one you ate, then it just goes to tell you that jollof rice really comes down to personality.
Yeah.
So this is our way of saying, don't think about which countries is best. Just enjoy it. It's a celebration of our differences and our similarities.
Yeah, and with that, we hope we've inspired you to try some if you've never had it before. It's becoming a lot more popular, and you can typically find it in any West African restaurant. If you can't see it in that restaurant, just walk out. Just go.
Wow.
Yes. Okay. Literally, they should shut down if they don't have jollof rice and they're West African. Bye. But anyway, don't forget to check out our website and our social media pages for more pictures, information about jollof. Happy World Jollof Day in advance, and we will be back with you in mid-September with a brand new episode.